G'day, folks. How are we? Is this working? I hope so. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Today we're doing some editing of two chapters of The Invisible Man. We're going to have to put them together, I think, because chapter 5
Chapter
is
5.
very short. You can see that 4.5 minutes, right? That's way too short to put out to the public. Chapter 6 is about 10 minutes. So yeah, we'll put them together and that'll be a reasonable chapter length. Okay. Sorry if I still have to fiddle around a little bit to get these levels okay. We'll just check this.
Chapter 5.
Ooh.
The burglary at the vicarage. The facts of the burglary
There
at
we
the
go.
vicarage
And I will just turn my volume down a bit.
came to us chiefly.
There you go, and that should be fine. If you're out there in the chat and you are listening, let me know if that volume is okay, and if not, that's fine too. Okay, so we line that up there and begin.
Chapter 5. The burglary at the vicarage. The facts of the burglary at the vicarage came to us chiefly through.
Now, there's not a lot going on initially, so I think we're just going to use. Oh, we'll get rid of that one. The basic English village sort of ambient sound. Roosters and stuff like that. Summer village at night. No. The bell. No. All right, let's have a look at this one. Couple of minutes and not too bad. In fact, we should probably turn that into a better sound effect. Because the other ones we've got, the villages are sort of not okay. Oh, maybe this one. Yes, we've already done it. Ah, clever. Good boy, Stephen. Good boy. Well, in that case, let's just while we're thinking of it, we'll just rename that, because I do tend to not do that. Short. There we go. Now that can sit down next to its friend. Great. Okay. All right. So we want to start that just as the music starts to fade. We'll fade that in so it's nice and loud, then start fading it out as the narration starts. See, this is all very exciting stuff, isn't it? Thrill a minute. I'm not surprised I get thousands and thousands of viewers for all of my editing streams. All right.
At the vicarage. The facts of the burglary.
That can be a bit louder, and it can come in a bit earlier too.
Burglary at the vicarage. The facts of the burglary at.
You know what? I'm going to use. Where is it? Got like a distant bell, church bell, something like that. Is that church silence? Nice. Classic. That's going to be difficult to find. Okay, I think it's in here. Let's have a look. Is it? No, it's not. Okay. It's probably in things. There we go. Church bells distant. 8 minutes is a bit much, but that's fine. Okay. Because I mean, since we're talking about a vicarage, right? I think some bells are okay. And that will help set the scene nicely. Okay, so we'll fade you in. You look like a nice solid sound effect anyway.
The burglary at the vicarage.
Yes.
The facts of the burglary at the vicarage came to us chiefly through the medium of the vicar and his wife.
Nice. That was good. And we'll just blend that out a little bit further.
It occurred. Chapter 5. The burglary at the vicarage. The facts of the
Remember that fade in can be a bit slower because it's a very solid sound, more solid than the tweeting birds and whatnot.
5. The burglary at the vicarage. The facts of the burglary at the vicarage came to us chiefly through the medium of the vicar and his wife. It occurred in the small hours of Whit Monday, the day devoted in Epping to the club
Nice.
festivities. Mrs. Bunting, it seems, woke up suddenly in the stillness that comes before the dawn, with the strong impression that the door of their bedroom had opened and closed. She did not arouse her husband at first, but sat up in bed.
Right, now, first we have to deal with this clipping, don't we? Because that was all a bit much at the time, I remember that. So yeah, we'll auto-match you. Okay, there we go. And then we will just grab you both. And G, yes. Normalize all peaks to -1 decibel. I can't believe we didn't do that first. That's embarrassing.
Listening. She then distinctly heard the pad, pad, pad of bare feet coming out of the adjoining dressing room and walking along the passage towards the staircase. As soon as she felt assured of this, she aroused the Reverend Mr.
Okay, so she started hearing things and whatnot. Actually, now that I listen to it, it sort of should be the nighttime one, shouldn't it? No, we'll fade to that. Because this is a really good opening, right? So we're going to leave this, and then we're going to transition to the village at night.
Vicarage. The facts of the burglary at the vicarage came to us chiefly through the medium of the vicar and his wife. It occurred in the small hours of Whit Monday, the day.
You go, see, by then, maybe, it should be nighttime. Okay. We've got that. At night, right? Distant dogs barking, is that good or not? I mean, it's the best nighttime village sound I have, so we'll put it down there for the moment, but I think I also do have another one. Village in the evening. That's probably not quite good enough, right? But we do have some countryside at night. Oh, man, I really have to go through and reorganize my sounds. Ooh, I should organize these into like urban and country, right? That would be a better idea. Anyway, this will do for the moment. Bring that in for the... Oh, it's not a very long sound. That's all right. We'll just have to match it, blend it, stretch it, all that sort of stuff. Actually, maybe I'll do that now. Okay. Because I keep thinking, when we get sound effects like this, I keep thinking, oh, I'll fix that later, and then I never do. Now, the annoying thing about Premiere Pro, of course, is you kind of have to shut it down and reload it when you want to do a new job so that it doesn't mess with the auto saves of the old job. I'm not actually a massive fan of Adobe. It's not a good program, it's just the best one available. You know? Bit like democracy. What's that quote about democracy? It's the worst government form except for all the other ones that have been tried, right? It's something like that. Okay, so we copy and then we paste and then we find a good blend point, which I think should be pretty easy because it's got those cicadas. So we'll just line up some cicadas, right? Okay, if you ever wondered how fiddly it can get blending sound effects, it can get this fiddly. It can actually get a lot more fiddly than this. This is a fairly simple one. That should be virtually unnoticeable. Yeah, perfect. Well, not perfect, but pretty good. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing again. Okay. Oops, bloop, bloop, bloop. Because that one's already done. This will get a lot faster in a moment. Don't worry. Although we've already got like 7 minutes of this. Beep. Almost like the insect version of a bus backing up, isn't it? Beep, 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 beep. Cicadas are very uniform with their pitch and timing. So we shouldn't have to worry too much about a rhythm. I don't know, much closer. Oh, a little bit of a... Oh no, I don't like that. Don't like that. That's not good. Okay, so we'll go to just before that cicada pitch. Take that one. You've got to avoid that dip in the sound, you see. Shorter. Shorter, shorter. No, still. Okay, bring it back a little bit more. There we go. That's the one. Just before it is better. Okay, 8 minutes is pretty good. I think you can loop that fairly easily. Okay, so let's let's say that'll bloody do, shall we? MP3. What do we want to call it? Village night. Distant dogs long. There we go. Export that. Lovely. And then we'll close that down. No, don't save. We've already done all we have to do there. And then we will go and find it in video. There we go. Easy peasy. Go back. And look at that. Look. Look. See? Look what we did. We did thing. Recent chapters 5 and 6. Lovely. Fine bloody tastic. Look how clever we are. Look what we did. Look what we did. And yes, I've decided to share the credit, so you helped with that. Look at that. Look at that. Look how good you are. Look how clever you are. All right, nice long blend, I think, for that one. Now, let's see if that work was worth it.
The vicar and his wife. It occurred in the small hours of Whit Monday, the day devoted in Epping to the club festivities. Mrs. Bunting, it seems, woke up suddenly in the stillness that comes before the dawn.
Little bit of a creak. Creak of the bed. What do we think? I think a little bit of a creak of the bed, which is under wood, I believe. Creaking bed. Look at that. Sometimes the Steve memory can remember things. That's quite a short one, I think.
With the strong impression that the door of their bedroom had opened and closed. She did not arouse her husband at first, but
that one. I like that. That one there. It's a problem that I've spoken about before, I'm sure. The people that make sound effects, the amateurs who make sound effects anyway, tend to overdo the sounds. Like, it doesn't, if they're making footsteps on the floor or something, it won't actually sound like footsteps on the floor because they'll be stepping like step, 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 you know. It's too much. It's, ooh, what have I done there? Ooh, accidentally hit a button. All right, that's fine. Do you know what I mean, though? Like, they do it too much. It sounds too much like someone, I am performing this noise now, you know, and it's like, that's not what I want. I just want the sound of someone stepping. But sometimes it feels like you have to do that, or you get sounds like this, where you can barely hear it, but it's realistic, you know? I have some sounds, honestly, that that are so realistic you can barely hear them at all. That's kind of pointless. Okay, but for this one, we're going to slow it down a bit. Going to let it keep its natural pitch.
Stillness that comes before the dawn, with the strong impression that the door of their bedroom had,
See, that sounds much better, doesn't it?
it seems, woke up suddenly in the stillness that comes before the dawn, with the strong impression that the door of their
Maybe a little bit louder and a little bit earlier.
stillness that comes before the dawn, with the strong impression that the door of their bedroom had opened.
Right, now this is always tricky, again, for much the same reason. I've got so many different sound effects of doors, as you can see, but a lot of them are just poopy. Or they're just wrong. Like they're too modern, they're the wrong kind of door, whatever. Yeah, that's the same door, so that's no good. It's alright, it's a little too aggressive and energetic. Oh, that wasn't too bad, the third one. Alright, I like the creak of the fifth one, and then the closing of the fourth one. Again, I should spend like a whole day just going through all my doors sound effects and classifying them better. Okay, so
She did not arouse her.
Shush you for the moment, thank you. And you. I'm just listening to the door. Maybe. That's not bad, actually. I don't mind that at all. So that can be the open. And then the close was like the third one, right? I think. Maybe this one. Yeah. If we slow it down a bit and kill the volume, that should serve nicely for a nice quiet door closing. Okay, so we have that, and we slow it, let's say 75. We're going to take quite a bite out of it there. Ah, that's pretty good, right? A little too quiet, a little bit more. Nice. Okay, let's add this back in.
Bedroom had opened and closed. She did not arouse her husband at comes before the dawn, with the strong impression that the door of their bedroom had opened and closed. She did not arouse her husband at first, but sat up in bed, listening. She then distinctly heard the pad, pad, pad of bare feet coming out of the adjoining dressing room.
Okay, so I do have some barefoot ones. Let's see. We want like barefoot on wood, right? Brayfoot. Yeah, excellent. Concrete, 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 wooden floor, barefoot. I hope this one's good because it's the only one we've got. It's not bad, but it almost sounds like they're wearing one shoe, doesn't it? The occasional little click. Maybe if we get rid of the first 8 seconds, it sounds a bit better.
First, but sat up in bed, listening. She then distinctly heard the pad, pad, pad of bare feet coming out of the adjoining dressing room and walking along the passage towards the staircase. She then distinctly heard the pad, pad, pad of bare. She then distinctly heard the pad, pad, pad of bare feet coming out of the adjoining dressing room and walking along.
A bit more.
And distinctly heard the pad, pad, pad of bare feet coming out of the adjoining dressing room and walking along. Distinctly heard the pad, pad, pad of bare feet coming out of the adjoining dressing room and walking along the passage towards the staircase. As soon as she felt assured of this, she aroused the Reverend Mr. Bunting as she heard the pad, pad, pad of bare feet coming out of the adjoining dressing room and walking along the passage towards the staircase. As soon as she felt assured of this, she aroused the Reverend Mr. Bunting as quickly as possible. He did not strike a light, but putting on his spectacles, her dressing gown, and his bath slippers,
Tricky set of sounds there. I'm not sure how to do it. I'm going to try something odd. Let's have a look. Okay, don't. Just piss off. Go away. Recording device. This microphone I'm using right now. We're just going to see. If it wasn't such a small sound effect, I wouldn't do it like this, but we're just going to try this and see how it goes. Alright, maybe that second one. We're going to have a little bit of a look. Desktop to the Invisible Man Work and Cure, Chapter 5, 6. Vicar wakes. Export. Okay. This is probably not going to use this. Okay. Desktop. Invisible Man Working. Chapter 5, 6. Vicar wakes. Here we go.
Mr. Bunting as quickly as possible. He did not strike a light. As quickly as possible. He did not strike a light, but putting on his spectacles as possible. He did not strike a light, but putting on his spectacles,
That's okay.
her dressing gown, and his bath slippers, he
some general rustling, maybe. Tricky things. Maybe some fabrics. Cloth rustling. That's a bit too much. See what I mean? This is supposed to be the sound of someone just taking off their pants. Listen to how energetic this sound is. Does that sound like any set of pants that you've ever taken off? It sounds far more like someone stuffing something roughly into a sports bag to me. With a zip. And that was 2 zips. And a bloody flag flapping in the... I mean, it's ridiculous. No pair of pants sounds like that. Alright, we're going to have to run through these and just see if we can find one that sounds okay. No, that's awful. In fact, I'm going to delete that. Alright, fine. Again. No, that can go too. I think that is literally a flag flapping in the wind. Yeah. Ah. Better. Much more subtle. Alright, we're going to play with that one. What else do we have? Oh, that's probably that. Just with a bit more bass. And it's very obviously someone holding the fabric and flapping it like mad. It's not... Now, to be fair, it is really hard to get the actual sound effects and record them properly, but, oh man, sometimes they're just awful. Awful. It shows in how few I've made over the years, though, you know. Where's that? Our favorite little free sound, our favorite little website. We have a quick look at how few. I've been a user for a year. I've downloaded 104 sounds. I've uploaded 11. I've made dozens and dozens over the years, but these are the only ones that I consider sort of good enough to be used by other people. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Back to the work.
Putting on his spectacles, her dressing gown. Strike a light, but putting on his spectacles, her dressing gown, and his bath slippers, he went out on the
Right? It doesn't need a lot of sound. It's just activity, general activity. I wouldn't mind a little bit of click, click. Is there something in wood that could be a click, click? Creaking, draw, no. Leaf sticks, maybe. No, far too rustly. Sticks? Oh, maybe a little bit of that very initial sound. Right? Just the first little bit.
light, but putting on his spectacles.
Right? Like, maybe. I mean, it's going to be very quiet, very subtle anyway.
A light, but putting on his spectacles, her dressing gown, and his bath slippers, he went out on the landing to listen.
Right, we just spent all that time on 54 to 57 and a half on, 3 seconds or so that no one's going to pay any attention to. They probably won't even hear it. But that's the art, man. That's what we do. Turn that up a little bit.
Light, but putting on his spectacles, her dressing gown, and his bath slippers, he went out on the.
That's a little too much, too abrupt a fade.
And his bath slippers, he went out on the landing.
Now he's wearing slippers. Walking across a wooden floor. They're heavy boots, aren't they? Yep. Okay, let's see what wood we have. Ladder, no. Wooden floor, barefoot. I mean, we just used that before, but we can do things to change it and make it sound different. Okay, so we will look for a particularly active point. Actually, that looks a bit more active, doesn't it? Pull it back to here.
Slippers, he went out on the landing to listen.
Stop there and fade it on that last footstep. There we go.
To listen. He heard quite distinctly a fumbling going on at his study desk downstairs.
Ah, now we have a sound for that. We have a sound for that. SFX, things would draw. Right, we're going to use that. That's just opening a drawer, I think.
Fumbling going on at his study desk downstairs, and then a
and I also have, what is it? It's like, where is it? Oh, I don't know. I think it's cupboard. Rummaging through a cupboard. There we go. Look at that. Yes.
On at his study desk downstairs, and then a violent sneeze.
sneeze. Now, I was worried about this. I know for a fact I don't have a sneeze. So we're going to have to hope that someone's got a collection of sneezes, because there's like 3 or 4. Sounds a little young, but they're not terrible. There's a bit of background noise, but that's okay. Sneezy, sneezy, sneeze. Why do they do that? Don't... Just, if a personal little thing, if you're uploading sound effects to a library like this, don't put your own sound effects on. Nobody cares. If they want sound effects on them, they will put their own sound effects on them. You know, we don't need yours and we don't want them. I think I'm going to take this, lads. I'll call it 4 because they're quite good, but there's a lot of background noise. Yes, I am that picky. Thank you. Thank you for noticing. Okay. People, I think. Sneezes. Okay. Violent sneeze. So what's the biggest one?
Armed himself with the most obvious weapon.
That one, I think. See, look at all that background noise. There's a lot there, isn't there? It's hard to record clean, but it can be done. But generally, the people who are that good, charge for their sound effects, which they should. I've bought many sound effects over the years, but, they're not cheap.
And then a violent sneeze. At that...
Let's see if we can kill some of the... there's a little bit of treble on there, right? Graphic equalizer. Let's use some more bass. Kill some treble.
Violent sneeze. At that...
Still sounds very young.
A violent sneeze. At that, he
See, it's not really...
Sneeze.
It's not really giving bass, is it? Can we just put some more bass on it?
Sneeze. At that, he returned to his...
Okay, turn that off for the moment.
Sneeze.
Boost the bass.
Sneeze. At that, he returned to... Sneeze. At that, he returned...
It sounds so young.
Sneeze. At that, he returned to his bedroom, armed himself with the most obvious weapon. A violent sneeze. At that, he returned to his bedroom, armed himself with the most obvious weapon, the...
I mean, I guess you can't really judge someone by their sneeze, can you? But, terrible. I mean, when I sneeze, it sounds like the house is about to collapse. No. Oof. If you hadn't sneezed right into the microphone and popped it, that wouldn't be a bad one. You hear that pop? That's no good. Female, no. No. Alright, I think we're just going to have to be happy with what we've got.
And then a violent sneeze. At that, he returned to his bedroom, armed himself with the most obvious.
Alright, set the footsteps. No, that's the drawer. We're going to get those footsteps again. There we are. Okay. That's fine. It's fine.
He returned. At that, he returned to his bedroom, armed himself with the most obvious weapon, the poker.
A little bit of metal. Metal! Not cage rattle, no. No chain. Counted me shillings. Metal crash, no. Metal here. Swing tapping. No, that's quite a light one. I remember that one. Still slide. No. No. Okay, let's let's see what's around. Still banned, no. Steelworks, no. I have used one of those before though. Just factory sounds. Maybe we try that. Oh, here we go. Why is it pitched up? Rolling is no good. No, that's a triangle, not a steel bar. No. Yes. Like, it's not right, right? It's clearly a, and that's an excellent sound with not a lot of background noise. I really like that. So, 5 stars. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. What was I saying? Right, it's not right. But it does, like, it exemplifies the iron bar very well, right? It's one being dropped, obviously.
The poker, and descended the staircase as noiselessly as possible. Mrs. Bunting came out on the landing. The hour was about 4, and the ultimate darkness of the night was past. There was a faint shimmer of light in the hall, but the...
So should we go to daytime now? Where was it? Village, right? No, what did we call it? What was it? It was back here, and it was called Daytime Country Extended. Okay. Yeah, it was Village. Village Daytime Country Extended. Okay. Come on in, Pally boy.
Mrs. Bunting came out on the landing. The hour was about 4, and the ultimate darkness of the night was past. Mrs. Bunting came out on the landing.
Now we're going to do a really long...
About 4.
Here we go. Okay. So from about here... Okay, but we're going to do a long, slow fade from one to the other. Yields. Long, slow.
His weapon, the poker, and descended the staircase as noiselessly as possible. Mrs. Bunting came out on the landing. The hour was about 4, and the ultimate darkness of the night was past. There was a faint shimmer of light in the hall, but the study doorway yawned impenetrably black. Everything was still, except the faint creaking of the... his weapon, the poker, and descended the staircase as noiselessly as possible. Mrs. Bunting came out on the landing. The hour was about 4, and the ultimate darkness of the night was past. There was a faint shimmer of light in the hall, but the study doorway yawned impenetrably black. Everything was still, except the faint creaking of the stairs under Mr. Bunting's tread.
Creaky, 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 creaky wood, creaky wood. Floorboards, creaky. Behold the creakiness.
Except the faint creaking of the stairs under Mr. Bunting's tread and the slight movements in the study. Then something...
Right, too creaky, too much activity there.
Stairs under Mr. Bunting's tread and the slight movements impenetrably black. Everything was still, except the faint creaking of the stairs under Mr. Bunting's tread and the slight movements in the study. Then something snapped.
Faint movements in the study. So I think that cupboard one, right? He didn't stop. He didn't stop. He's still rummaging through that cupboard.
Impenetrably black. Everything was still, except the faint creaking of the stairs under Mr. Bunting's tread and the slight movements in the study. Then something snapped.
Slight movements in the study. I want to align with one of the louder noises.
Mr. Bunting's tread and the slight movements in the study. Then Mr. Bunting's tread and the slight movements in the study. Then something snapped. The drawer was opened and there...
What sort of snap? Oh, right, okay. Metal snap. I don't think I have anything like that. I do have a lot of random little noises, though. These were care of Matche from his home country. Their government provided some sound effects. No, 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 no. Maybe 10. No. 10. Okay. It's just a small sound. We don't want to spend too much time on it, right? This is something I've learned over the years. I tend to spend too much time on sounds that don't matter all that much.
Then something snapped.
There.
The drawer snapped. The drawer snapped. The drawer was open.
Drawer was opened. We have that. Is that in wood? I'm not sure what that's in. Drawer. Open. Shrinky dinky dinky. You know what? I don't need much of you fellas at all. I need to see you, and that's about it.
Opened and there was a rustle of papers. Then came an
Back a bit and that'll be good.
The drawer was opened and there was a rustle of papers. Then came an imprecaution.
Now, the imprecaution is a polite way of saying old Victorian swearing. So, I'm not sure what we're going to put there. Maybe we should record something muffled. What do you think? Let's try something. Let's try a little something. I'm not going to be funny. I was planning to be funny and say some very horrible things, but I won't. I do that sort of thing when I'm by myself in the booth, though. I leave myself little jokes for later when I'm editing, which I'll have to stop doing because I plan to do all my editing on live streams now. Okay, so... what would it be like? By the gods or something like that. No, it would be by God. because it's a Victorian Christian book. H.G. Wells was Christian, as were most people at the time, I guess, in this part of the world. All right, fine. It could be just like what or something like that. What? My God, motherfucker! All right, I had to put in one little semi-funny one because I'm an idiot and I have to amuse myself. Imprecautions. There we go. I should put that one. Can I pin it? I don't know how. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's not that important.
Precaution, and a match was struck, and the...
Alright, I think that's fine. A match? Do I have a match? I don't know if I do. A match? Maybe. Here you go, matches. Beautiful. I wonder what I use that for. Usually I can remember, but sometimes if it's just a short story or something like that, I can't. That was probably that one, right?
Struck, and the study was flooded.
Back a bit.
And a match was struck, and the study was flooded. Precaution, and a match was struck, and the study was flooded. Imprecaution, and a match was struck, and the study was flooded with yellow.
I don't know about that.
Precaution, and a match was struck, and the...
I don't know about that at all.
An imprecaution, and a match... Precaution, and a match was... Imprecaution, and a match was struck, and the study was flooded with yellow light. Mr. Bunting was now in the hall, and through the crack of the door he could see the desk and the... Then came an imprecaution, and a match was struck, and the study was flooded with yellow light. Mr. Bunting was now in the hall, and through the crack of the door he could see the desk and the open drawer and a candle burning on the desk, but the robber he could not see. He stood there in the hall, undecided what to do, and Mrs. Bunting, her face white and intent, crept slowly downstairs after him. One thing kept Mr. Bunting's courage: the persuasion that this burglar was a resident in the village.
Maybe some more creaky floorboards for Mrs. Bunting.
Or he could see the desk and the... He stood there in the hall, undecided what to do, and Mrs. Bunting, her face white and intent, crept slowly downstairs after... And Mrs. Bunting, her face white and intent, crept slowly downstairs after him. One thing kept Mr. Bunting's courage: and Mrs. Bunting, her face white and intent, crept slowly downstairs after him. One thing kept Mr. Bunting's courage: the persuasion that they decided what to do, and Mrs. Bunting, her face white and intent, crept slowly downstairs after him. One thing kept Mr. Bunting's courage: the persuasion that this burglar was a resident. Her face white and intent, crept slowly downstairs after him. One thing kept Mr. Bunting's courage: the persuasion that this burglar was a resident in the village.
There you go. Just a quick update, give you an idea of what sort of work this takes. We've now been editing for 50 minutes, and we have done the first 2.5 minutes of Chapter 5. This takes a while. This takes a while.
and realized that the robber had found the house.
And nothing particularly intense has happened yet. There hasn't been a fight or an action scene or anything like that. It's just a few people creeping around at night, getting dressed, lighting candles, you know?
One thing
Yeah.
kept Mr. Bunting's courage: the persuasion that this burglar was a resident in the village. They heard the chink of money and
Now I've got that one. I've got that one, definitely. And I think I know where it is. I think it's in metal. Counting me shillings.
money and they heard the chink of money and realized that the robber had found the housekeeping reserve of gold, £2.10 in half sovereigns altogether. At that sound, Mr. Bunting was nerved to abrupt act. Heard the chink of money and realized that the robber had found the housekeeping reserve of gold, £2.10 in half sovereigns altogether. Of money and realized that the robber had found the housekeeping reserve of gold, They heard the chink of money and realized that the robber had found the housekeeping reserve of gold, £2.10 in half sovereigns altogether. At that sound, Mr. Bunting was nerved to abrupt action. Gripping the poker firmly, he rushed into the room.
Right. More serious footsteps now. Still on the wood. No. Okay, let's see if they've got something. Whoops. Wrong one. Running barefoot wood. Let's see. Nice. Come on, be good. Be great. I mean, obviously being done with someone's hands, but that's okay. What's this one? What the hell is that? It's awful. No. Hell no. Absolutely not. No! That was as bad as the previous one. I think it was the same person. Yeah, it was. Some of these don't sound like footsteps at all. No. That'd be alright if it was a bit more bassy. Also, it's moving around the stereo space. I'm not sure you can hear that, but it's not so good. Okay, so we're going to take that one for the moment. Oh gosh, there's not many options, is there? I think this was the best of a bad lot. We can do something with it. It's okay. Okay, so in footsteps. Really need to reorganize those footsteps. I need to reorganize all my folders.
Poker firmly, he rushed into the room, closely followed by Mrs. Bunting. Surrender! He rushed into the room, closely followed by Mrs. Bunting. Surrender!
Right. Now that line, I was wondering whether I'd have to re-record it, and I really think I'm probably going to have to. Surrender! That's horribly clipped, isn't it? Let's see if we can just drop it down a bit.
"Surrender!" cried Mr. Bunting fiercely,
That's not too bad.
and then stooped, amazed. Apparently, the room was perfectly empty. Yet their conviction that they had that very moment heard somebody move.
Now, I have to decide whether I'm going to do something a bit artistic here, right? This is, which I don't object to at all. But, like, there's a mood here that starts to be elicited, where it's pretty creepy, right? And I want to try and do some of that. So we're going to play with some of these, which I have used before. Right, nice low bass tone, just droning away, can help to unsettle the audience, and I want them unsettled.
And then stooped, amazed. Apparently, the room was perfectly empty.
Right, now, I'm going to have that build up to that point.
Cried Mr. Bunting fiercely, and then stooped, amazed. Apparently, the room was perfectly empty. Yet their conviction that they had that very moment heard somebody moving in the room had amounted to a certainty. For half a minute, perhaps, they stood gaping. Then Mrs. Bunting went across the room and looked.
Went across the room, a little bit more footsteps. Footy steppers! Across the room. I mean, unfortunately, it's basically going to be the same footsteps all the time.
Mrs. Bunting went across the room and looked behind the screen, while Mr. Bunting, by a kindred impulse, peered under the desk.
Maybe the countryside can be dipped low. And I want that creepy hum to be the major sound.
Bunting fiercely, and then stooped, amazed. Apparently, the room was perfectly empty. Yet their conviction that they had that very moment heard somebody moving in the room had amounted to a certainty. For half a minute, perhaps, they stood gaping. Then Mrs. Bunting went across the room and looked behind the screen, while Mr. Bunting, by a kindred impulse, peered under the desk. Then Mrs. Bunting turned back the window curtains, and Mr. Bunting looked up the chimney and probed it with a poker. Then
Another metal, bit more metal, bit more metal, bit of metal, clang clang, right? It's going to be tricky. I've used these sounds a lot, and you haven't recognized them because of how I've used them. Some of them were from 1984. They've been modified. Yes. That one again? No. Although, I'll show you a trick. This might not work, but I'll give it a go. Alright, here, we get this, then we copy it, and we paste it, and then we paste it again. Okay, now, we adjust the speed, take it down to like 75%, let it set its own pitch, don't try and force a pitch on it.
Then Mrs. Bunting scrutinized the waste paper basket, and Mr. Bunting opened the lid of the coal scuttle. Then they came to a stop.
Speed 1110.
Looked up the chimney and probed it with a poker. with a poker. Then Mrs. Bunting scrutinized the waste paper.
Right. Now we speed it up a bit. You can see what I'm doing though, right? We're just modifying the sound. After all, it is all this same poker.
Probed it with a poker. Then Mrs. Bunting
No. Out.
probed it with a poker. Then Mrs. Bunting scrutinized.
And then we -10. We want them all to be a bit quieter than that.
With a poker. Then Mrs. Bunting scrutinized the waste paper basket, and
Yeah.
Mr. Bunting opened the lid of the coal scuttle.
Open. Let's try open. It'll be a little tin thing, so no. It could be wooden, I suppose. Open things, door, metal, small square. Actually, that's pretty bloody good, isn't it? That's perfect. Oh, I'm surprised. That was one of the silver something or other audio little compilation packs. One of the first things I ever bought as far as sound effects was concerned, and it's been almost completely useless the whole time through all these productions. And I bought them really early. I think, it might have even been Brave New World or 1984, one of the very early books that I bought them thinking, ooh, I'll get some useful stuff in here, and no, most of them are useless.
Mr. Bunting opened the lid of the coal scuttle.
That's good. It doesn't have to be that loud, though. A little bit quieter. Thank you.
Coal scuttle. Then they came to a stop and stood with eyes interrogating each other. I could have sworn, said Mr. Bunting. The candle, said Mr. Bunting. Who lit the candle? The drawer, said Mrs. Bunting. And the money's gone. She went hastily to the doorway. Of all, said Mrs. Bunting. And the money's gone. She went hastily to the doorway. Of all the strange occurrences. There was a violent sneeze in the...
Another sneeze. There we go. See, this is the second. I'm pretty sure there's one more after this too. That's why it was important that they be from the same source, the same person, so they sound the same.
The passage. They rushed out, and there was a violent sneeze in the passage. They rushed.
How can you hear how young someone is from a sneeze? That's madness. Sounds are so weird. Now, I wonder if I can... I mean, we'll add a bit of bass to that, and that's fine, right? But can I... Stereo imagery. Stereo expander. Can I make that sound? Yes, I can! Like it's coming from the left.
There was a violent sneeze in the passage. They rushed out, and as they did so, the kitchen door slammed.
Slamming door! We have plenty of doors. Plenty of doors. Door slam! It's a bloody prison. Oh, I remember this annoying collection. It's not slamming doors, it's spooky horror doors, and they're terrible. Ah!
Bring the candle!
Maybe off in the distance, though. Right, we make it a little bit quiet. We'll use that stereo expander again. I like that. Make it all the way over there. And we'll bring it up here so we can make it quiet, and we'll give it a bit of a bass pass as well. We'll go, we'll boost that.
Bring the candle! And as they did so, the kitchen door slammed. Door slammed. Bring the candle, said Mr. Bunting, and led the way.
Well, there's two people walking now, but we only have one sound effect, so what do? Even if we put it down there and offset it a bit, it's going to sound wrong. So we use our old friend clip speed to adjust the pitch of the second one, and we cut it a little bit so it doesn't start at the same point.
"Bring the candle," said Mr. Bunting, and led the way. They both heard a sound of bolts being hastily shot back.
Bolts. Now I think that'd be on a fence. I doubt I've called it bolts. That's a very specific sound. But gate? No. Gassed. Good one. Old gate. I wonder if there's one on here. Good one. There you go, right at the end. Right at the end. Then from the end, I reckon.
Closed with a slam. As it did so, the candle Mrs. Bunting was carrying from the...
Right, I'm going to take both those sound effects. We're going to put them next to each other.
And the faint light of early dawn being hastily shot back.
Hastily shot back. Right. So we take this and we take that. We put them next to each other.
Back. As he opened the kitchen door, he...
Alright, let's drop it by a bit.
Back. As he opened the kitchen door, he...
Maybe more. -10 and. Where's that? There you go, we like that. We like that. Effects controls, stereo expanded, thank you. Over there. Yes, yes. Control and paste attributes. Lovely. Yes, all that.
Back. As he opened the kitchen door, he saw through the scullery that the back door was just opening, and the faint light of early dawn displayed the dark masses of the garden beyond.
Alright, let's tweak up the sounds of the day.
They both heard...
We have a door opening too, we can't ignore that. Right, that's good. That's good, we'll use that one. Actually, that one has bolts attached to it. We could have used that. No matter. No matter. Alright.
The way. They both heard a sound of bolts being hastily shot back. As he opened the kitchen door, he saw through the scullery that the back door was just opening, and the faint light of early dawn displayed the dark masses of the garden beyond. He is certain that nothing went out of the door.
I don't like that sound effect of that. I'm going to get rid of that. There we go, so we'll delete that back there. I like, because it's clearly later in the day, and I don't know how accurate it is, but I think of owls as nighttime creatures, night predators, and there are owls in here, so I think that's earlier in the morning, you know, later at night rather than anything else. So places, and we have Countryside English Summer somewhere around here. There we go, that's a good one. And we're going to have that. We're going to fade that in slowly.
That the back door was just opening, and the faint light of early dawn displayed the dark masses of the garden beyond. He is certain that nothing went out of the door. It opened, stood open for a moment, and then closed with...
Right, open and close the door. There's a lot of semi-confusing door things going on here, but that's okay. Look how cheeky. They use the same door close sound effect for several doors in a row.
displayed the dark masses of the garden beyond. He is certain that nothing went out of the door. It opened, stood open for a moment, and then closed with a slam.
Okay, so I do like that open. I think the slam is...
As it did so,
Okay.
it opened, stood open. It opened, stood open for a moment, and then closed with a slam.
Nice. Now, another little trick is to adapt the volume of what's on the other side of the door. When a door opens, obviously you're going to hear what's on the other side a lot easier. And when it closes, it will be quieter.
It opened, stood open for a moment, and then closed with a slam.
And where are we? There. Even quieter. Thank you.
With a slam. As it did so, the candle Mrs. Bunting was carrying from the study flickered and flared. It was a minute or more before they...
I don't know if I have one for that. I'm not going to play too much with it, but if I've got one, I'll use it. No. Whoops. Oh, that was a candle sputtering sound, wasn't it? Up, come here, you. Come here, tiny child. Your infant sound effect. We're going to put you to life.
Flared. Bunting was carrying from the study flickered and flared. It was a minute or more before they...
Ah, no, that's a very solid sputter, isn't it? I was hoping for something like... You know what I mean. That was awful. You can tell I can't beatbox, can't you? Anyway, so we'll leave that.
Carrying from the study flickered and flared. It was a minute or more before they entered the kitchen. The place was empty. They refastened the back door.
Okay, refastening the back door. We shall use not that actual closing, but the same door.
They refastened the back door. They refastened the back door, examined the kitchen, pantry, and scullery thoroughly, and at last went down into the cellar.
Stairs. We have stairs. Footsteps, creaky, creaky, creaky ladder. No, stairs. Stairs, wooden, no squeak. Think up.
There was not a soul to be found in the house.
Because this sound effect was recorded by someone wearing sneakers, you see. So I had to go through and delete every time their shoes squeaked on the stairs.
The cellar. There was not a... And at last went down into the cellar. There was not a soul to be found in the house.
Slower, 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 slower.
Went down into the cellar. There was not a soul to be found in the house, search as they would. Daylight found the vicar and his wife, a quaintly costumed little couple, still marvelling about on their own ground floor by the unnecessary light of a guttering candle. Chapter 6.
Right. It's that.
Fastened the back door, examined the kitchen, pantry, and scullery thoroughly, and at last went down into the cellar. There was not a soul to be found in the house, search as they would. Daylight found the vicar and his wife, a quaintly costumed little couple, found in the house, search as they would. Daylight found the...
We're going to move that to a more deliberate and audible sound effect. There's one just up there, probably some lovely little birds. Audio transitions, please. There we go. That should be nice and simple.
They would. Daylight found the vicar and his wife, a quaintly costumed little couple, still marvelling about on their own ground floor by the unnecessary light of a guttering candle.
Okay. Look at that. Chapter 5 complete. Now, I don't think we need a little musical break. We'll just
About
give it a
on
few
their own
seconds.
ground floor by the unnecessary light of a guttering candle.
Because they're creeped out, you see, they're scared.
Chapter 6. The Furniture That Went Mad. Now, it happened that in the early hours of Whit Monday, before Milly was hunted out for the day, Mr. Hall and Mrs. Hall both rose and went noiselessly down into the cellar.
Right, now this is the sound of the inn, which we have decided to show as a fireplace. Because it started in winter. And that's just sort of become the setting for their abode.
6. The Furniture That Went Mad. Now, it happened that in the early hours of Whit Monday, before Milly was hunted out for the day, Mr. Hall and Chapter 6. The Furniture That Went Mad. Now, it happened that in the early hours of Whit Monday, before Milly was hunted out for the day, Mr. Hall and Mrs. Hall both rose and went noiselessly down into the cellar. Their business there was of a private nature, and had something to do with the specific gravity of their beer. They had hardly entered the cellar when Mrs. Hall found she had forgotten to bring down a bottle of sarsaparilla. Sarsaparilla from their joint room. As she was the expert and principal operator in this affair, Hall very properly went upstairs for it. On the landing, he was surprised to see that the stranger's door was ajar. He went on into his own room and
See, squeaky floor there. Squeaky floor. Herm. I think it's going to be that one again, even though he's not barefoot. It's very hard to find good sound effects.
was ajar. He went on into his own room and found the bottle as he had been directed. But returning with the bottle, he noticed that the bolts of the front... He was surprised to see that the stranger's door was ajar. He went on into his own room and found the bottle as he had been directed. But returning with the...
And the bottle. Now we've got a bottle sound. I know we do. We've got a bunch. I think these are all clinky. Yeah. I think that one. You may recognize that from Winston picking up his bottle and drinking it of the Victory Gin.
But returning with the bottle, he and found the bottle as he had been directed. But returning with the bottle, he noticed that the bolts of the front door had been shot back, that the door was in fact simply on the latch. And with a flash of inspiration, he connected this with the stranger's room upstairs and the suggestions of Mr. Teddy Henfrey. He distinctly remembered holding the candle while Mrs. Hall shot these bolts overnight. At the sight, he stopped, gaping, then, with the bottle still in hand, went upstairs again. He rapped at the stranger's door. He stopped, gaping, then, with the bottle still in hand, went upstairs again. He rapped at the stranger's door.
Knocking? Yes. No. Too solid. That's a good wrap. Alright, the second one. Then we're going to go to a more vigorous one.
He rapped at the stranger's door. There was no answer. He rapped again.
And let's slow it down to 80. And just a few little knocks, I think. Doesn't have to be more than that.
The stranger's door. There was no answer. He rapped again, then pushed the door wide open. The stranger's door. There was no answer. He rapped again, then pushed the door wide open.
Creaky door, creaky door, creaky door. Which one was it? Can't use that one, that was the kitchen downstairs. No. Right, that one, but we don't want the click click, we just want the little whine.
Was empty. And what was stranger, even to his heavy intelligence,
It's this one,
on
I
the
think.
bedroom chair and along the
Yeah.
pushed the door wide open and entered. It was as he expected. The bed, the room also, was empty. And what was stranger, even to his heavy intelligence, on the bedroom chair and along the rail of the bed were scattered the garments, the only garments, so far as he knew, and the bandages of their guest. His big slouch hat, even, was cocked jauntily over the bedpost. As Hall stood there, he heard his wife's voice coming out of the depths of the cellar with that rapid telescoping of the syllables and interrogative cocking up of the final words to a high note, by which the West Sussex villager is wont to indicate a brisk impatience. "George, you got what I want?" And
Eek. Such clipping, such clipping.
is wont to indicate a brisk impatience. "George, you got what I want?" At that, he turned and hurried down to her. "Johnny," he said. And hurried down to her. "Johnny," he said over the rail of the cellar steps. "'Twas the truth what Henry... 'Twas the truth what... Doors unbolted." The cellar steps. "'Twas the truth what Henry says. He's not in his room, he ain't. And the front door's unbolted." At first, Mrs. Hall did not understand, and as soon as she did, she resolved to see the empty room for herself. Hall, still holding the bottle, went first. "If he ain't there," he said. "There." Went first. "If he ain't there," he said, "his clothes... His clothes are. And what he doing without his clothes, then? 'Tis a most curious business." "There," he said. "His clothes are. And what he doing without his clothes, then? 'Tis a most curious business." As they came up the cellar steps, they both, it was afterwards ascertained, fancied they heard the front door open and shut, but seeing it closed and nothing there, neither said a word to the other about it at the time. The front... on the staircase. Hall, following 6 steps behind, thought... and shut. But fancied they heard the front door open and shut. heard the front door open and shut, but seeing it closed and nothing there, neither said a fancied they heard the front door open and shut, but seeing it closed and front door open and shut, but seeing it closed and nothing there, neither said a word to the other about it at the time. Mrs. Hall passed her husband in the passage and ran on first upstairs. Someone sneezed on
Another sneeze, another sneeze. Sneezes, praise sneezes. Doesn't have to be a big one.
on the staircase. Hall, following 6 steps behind.
Now we need that bass pulse. There we are. Oh, no, that one. Of this, please. Up to about 9, wasn't it?
Sneezed on the staircase. Hall, following 6 steps behind, thought that he heard her sneeze. She, going on first, was under the impression that Hall was sneezing. She flung open the door and stood regarding.
Needed here so many bloody doors, opening and closing and opening and closing and opening and closing and opening and closing. Footsteps and doors, I swear that's half my job.
Flung open the door and
That one.
she flung open the door and stood regarding the room.
No, not that
Of
one.
all the curious, she said. She heard a sniff close behind her head, as it seemed, and turning was surprised. She flung open the door and stood regarding the room. Of all the curious, she said. She heard a sniff close behind the room. Of all the curious. The room. Of all the curious, she said. She heard a sniff close behind her head.
Sniff. A sniff. I don't think I have a sniff. I can't imagine where I would have needed a sniff. Oh, right, of course.
Close behind her head. A sniff close behind her head, as it seemed, and turning was surprised to see Hall a dozen feet off on the topmost stair. But in another moment he was beside her. She bent forward and put her hand on the pillow and then under the clothes. "Cold," she said. "He's been up this hour or more." As she did so, a most extraordinary thing happened. The bedclothes gathered themselves together.
Right. This is going to be tough. This is going to be tough. Because we don't have any good fabric sounds. We especially don't have any fabric. It's generally awful. What's that? What's that supposed to be? What's that? You know? But we do have making a bed. We do have making a bed. Let's... Where's that? Some of that might be effective.
A most extraordinary thing happened. The bedclothes gathered themselves together.
See? Let's see. Alright, first thing we're going to do is slow it all down to like 75%. Then we're going to kill the volume.
Together, leapt up suddenly into a sort of peak. Bedclothes gathered themselves together, leapt up suddenly into a sort of peak.
Alright.
bedclothes gathered themselves together, leapt up suddenly into a sort of peak, and then jumped headlong over the bottom rail. It was exactly as if a hand had clutched them in and then jumped headlong over the bottom rail. It was exactly as if
Back a bit.
and then jumped headlong over the bottom rail. It was exactly as if a hand had clutched them in the centre and flung them aside. Immediately after, the stranger's hat hopped off the bedpost.
I have no idea what sound effect to use for that.
Described a whirling flight in the air through the better part of a circle, and then dashed straight at Mrs. Hall's face. Then, as
It's not a fabric. It's not a fabric. It's oh, maybe the flag? Yeah, because it's not actually very flag-like, is it?
air through the better part of a circle, and then
Maybe that bit that's a bit more quiet.
whirling flight in the air through the better part of a circle, the bedpost. Described a whirling flight in the air through the better part of a circle, and then dashed straight at Mrs. Hall's face. Described a whirling flight in the air through the better part of a post. Described a whirling flight in the air through the better part of a circle, and then dashed straight at Mrs. Hall's face.
It's quite a good natural point there, actually.
Then, as swiftly, came the sponge from the washstand, and then the chair, flinging the stranger's coat.
The sponge? Little splat, maybe? I think we do have some splat sounds. Ah. Very gross, right? That was from War of the Worlds. That's the alien creeping along. That's not quite right. Okay, we'll have to see. What about that one? No, that's just the longer version of the same thing. Wet splat really is what we want. No, that's awful. No. 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 Ew. That's the trouble with looking for sounds like this. If you're going to search for splat, you know, you're going to get some disgusting stuff. No. No. Ugh. No. Ooh. 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 Maybe. Maybe. No, thank you. Stepped on a slug? No, ew. Yes. Perfect. Thank you. I'll give you a 5. Good sound effect. And not a lot of background noise. Where are we going to put that? Strange. Yep, sure. Wet splat. Gross.
In the chair, flinging the stranger's
No.
swiftly, came the sponge from the washstand, and then the chair from the washstand, and then the chair, flinging the stranger's coat and trousers carelessly aside, and laughing dryly in a voice singularly like the stranger's.
Beep. I think the second one. I didn't like the first one very much.
like the strangers, turned itself up with its 4 legs at Mrs. Hall's side, and laughing dry.
Right, so chair, a little bit of wood, right? Things, wood, chairs. We do have some chair. Oh, what? It's not in there? Where is it? We've got lots of like chair scraping stuff, chair sitting, scraping on floor. I think that's probably the right one.
Carelessly aside, chair flinging the stranger's coat and trousers carelessly aside, and laughing dryly in a voice singularly like the stranger's, turned itself up with its 4 legs at Mrs. Hall, seemed to take...
Right, that should be a shorter break. That seems too long. So bada bing, call that.
Turned itself like the strangers. Turned itself up with its 4 legs at Mrs. Hall, seemed to take aim at her for a moment. From the washstand, and then the chair, flinging the stranger's coat and trousers carelessly aside, and laughing dryly. The stranger's coat and trousers carelessly aside, and laughing dryly in a voice singularly like the stranger's, turned itself up with its 4 legs at Mrs. Hall, seemed to take aim at her for a moment, and charged at her.
Right, now that's actually going to be footsteps. There's none mentioned, but, you know, running. He is actually barefoot. Cause, shockingly, and I know it's very shocking, he's actually stark naked. What? Yes.
Charged at her. She screamed and charged at her. She screamed.
Right. Now, we do have some screams. Oh boy, do we have screams. Women's screams, girls' screams, screamies, screamies, screams. No. Maybe. No. 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 Oh, maybe, actually. Because I think... Like, she's quite a ballsy woman, you know? I don't think she'd have a very girly scream, so maybe that short one
Everything was still.
might suit quite well. She's quite a strong lady, is the missus. Mrs. Hall.
She screamed and turned, and then the... She screamed and turned.
Oh, a bit louder than that.
At her. She screamed and turned, and then the chair legs came gently but firmly against her back and impelled her and
Right, more footsteps in the wood.
Hall out of the room.
Speed 125. We're going to speed
The door
that up.
slammed violently and was against her back.
No, maybe more running, actually.
Against her back and impelled her and Hall out of the room. Against her back and impelled her.
Right, but we'll speed that down a bit. Take that down to 75, because he's pushing people now.
Her back and impelled her and Hall out of the room. The door slammed. Hall out of the room. The door slammed violently.
Back to the door. Door slammer. Pick the one good one.
It's customary.
No.
I read in papers of him.
No.
Hall and Millie, who
I think they're all the
in
same.
Mr. Hall's arm.
They're all the same bloody sound effect, aren't they? Oh, don't want to use that. I want to use a better one.
Mr. Hall's arms on the landing.
No.
Millie, who had been roused by her...
No. They're all the same one. They are. They're all the same one. I hate that. Alright, you.
Hall was left almost in a fainting condition in Mr. Hall's arms on the landing. It was with the greatest difficulty who had been roused by her scream of alarm of the room. The door slammed violently and was locked.
Latches of the gate again. Wait, can we use that start? No. No. Where is it? Where is it? Gate. I guess it doesn't really matter what they're called if I know...
The chair...
well, it doesn't matter how the files are organized if I know what the sound effects are called.
And was locked. The chair and...
Wait, no, I've got a better one than that. I've got a better one. I've got a better one. Key. We'll look for key in lock old. There we go. This was from my old house in Australia.
Locked. The chair and bed seemed to be executing a dance of triumph. Violently and was locked. The chair and bed seemed to be executing a dance of triumph. The door slammed violently and was locked. The chair and bed seemed to be violently and was locked. The chair and bed seemed to be executing a dance of triumph for a moment, and then abruptly, everything was still. Mrs. Hall was left almost in a fainting condition in Mr. Hall's arms on the landing. It was with the greatest difficulty that Mr. Hall and Millie, who had been roused by her scream of alarm, succeeded in getting her downstairs and applying the restorative.
On the wooded floor again.
Succeeded in getting her downstairs and applying the restoratives customary in Mr. Hall's arms on the landing. It was with the greatest difficulty that Mr. Hall and Millie, who had It was with the greatest difficulty that Mr. Hall and Millie, who had been roused by her scream of alarm, succeeded in getting her downstairs and applying the restoratives customary.
What? Oh, because we're in there. Okay.
In such cases. "'Tis spirits!" said Mrs. Hall. Her downstairs and applying the restoratives customary in such cases. "'Tis spirits!" said Mrs. Hall. "'Tis spirits!" "'Tis spirits!" said Mrs. Hall. I know 'tis spirits. I read in papers of 'em, tables and chairs leaping and dancing. Take a drop more, Johnny, said Hall. "'Tis spirits," said Mrs. Hall. I know 'tis spirits. I read in papers of 'em, tables and chairs leaping and dancing. Take a drop more, Johnny, said Hall. 'Twill steady ye. 'Twill steady ye. Lock him out, said Mrs. Lock him out, said Mrs. Hall. Don't let him come in again. Don't let him come in again. I half guessed I might have known. With them goggling eyes and bandaged head and never going to church of a Sunday and all they bottles, more'n it's right for anyone to have. He put the spirits into the furniture. My good furniture! 'Twas in that very chair my poor dear mother used to sit when I was a little girl. To think it should rise up against me now! Just a drop more, Johnny, said Hall. Your nerves is all upset.
Get drunk. You seem a bit too sober for what's happening now.
Just a drop more. More, Johnny, said Hall. Your nerves is all upset. They said... Just a drop more, Johnny, said Hall. Your nerves is all upset. They sent Millie across the street through the golden 5 o'clock sunshine to rouse up Mr. Sandy Wadgers.
Most unfortunate name in all of literature, I think. Sandy Wadgers. Terrible. Oh, boy. I would change my name. I don't know about you.
Through the golden 5 o'clock sunshine to rouse up Mr. Sandy Wadgers, the blacksmith. Mr. Hall's compliments and the furniture upstairs was behaving most extraordinary. Would Mr. Wadgers come round? He was a knowing man, was Mr. Wadgers, and very resourceful. He took quite a grave view of the case. "I'm darned if that aren't witchcraft," was the view of Mr. Sandy Wadgers. "You weren't horseshoes for such gentry as he." He came round greatly concerned. They wanted him to lead the way upstairs to the room, but he didn't seem to be in any hurry. He preferred to talk in the passage. Over the way, Huxter's apprentice came out and began taking down the shutters of the tobacco window. He was called over to join the discussion. Mr. Huxter naturally followed over in the course of a few minutes. The Anglo-Saxon genius for parliamentary government asserted itself. There was a great deal of talk and no decisive action. "Let's have the facts first," insisted Mr. Sandy Wadgers. "Let's be sure we be acting perfectly right in busting that there door open. A door unbust is always open to busting, but you can't unbust a door once you've busted in." And suddenly, and most wonderfully, the door of the room upstairs opened of its own accord.
More doors! I'm shocked. I get so sick of doors. I really do. Doors and footsteps, footsteps and doors.
It opened of its own accord, and as they looked up in amazement...
It seems to be all I ever do some days.
Opened of its own accord, and as they looked up in amazement, they saw, descending the stairs... They saw, descending the stairs, the muffled figure of the stranger, staring more blackly and blankly than ever with those unreasonably large blue glass eyes of his. He came down stiffly and slowly, staring all the time. He walked across the passage, staring, then all the time. He walked across the passage and slowly, staring all the time. He walked across the passage, staring, then stopped. All the time. He walked across the passage, staring, then stopped. "Look there!" Staring, then stopped. "Look there!" he said, and their eyes followed the direction of his gloved finger and saw a bottle of sarsaparilla hard by the cellar door. Then he entered the parlour and suddenly, swiftly, viciously slammed the door in their faces.
Oh, another door. You don't say. Another fucking door. Ah, doors. All right. I'm listening to an Asimov book at the moment. And there's a character in it called Dawes. Drives me mad every time I hear her name.
Not a
I tell you, after a couple of hours of editing, I don't want to hear another door for as long as I live.
faces. Not a word was spoken until the last echoes of the slam had died away. They stared at one another. "Well, if that don't lick everything," said Mr. Wadgers, and left the alternative unsaid.
What alternative? If that do lick everything, is that your alternative? Weird.
"I'd go in and ask him about it," said Wadgers to Mr. Hall. "I'd demand an explanation." It took some time to bring the landlady's husband up to that pitch. At last he rapped, opened the door, and...
At last he rapped. Well, oh, my name is Hall, and I'm here to say I like to knock on your door every day. I'll see if you're home, and if you're not, I'll go through and see what it is that you've got. Har, har, har. Sorry, I don't really do rap.
husband up to that pitch. At last he rapped, opened the door, and got as far as... "Excuse me." He rapped, opened the door...
Open the door, you don't say.
and got as far as... "Excuse me." At last he rapped, opened the door, and got as far as... At last he rapped, opened the door, and got as far as... Last he rapped, opened the door, and got as far as... "Excuse me." "Go to the devil," said the stranger in a... "Go to the devil." "Excuse me." "Go to the devil," said the stranger in a tremendous voice. "Shut that door after you." So that brief interview terminated.
Alrighty then. We'll pull that in there. That's where that finishes. Drag that along.
Mr. Hall, "I demand an explanation." It took some time to bring the landlady's husband up to that pitch. At last he rapped, opened the door, and got as far as... "Excuse me." "Go to the devil," said the stranger in a tremendous voice. "Shut that door after you." So that brief interview terminated.
Okay. Is that the gap between 5 and
Necessary
6?
light of a
It is,
guttering
isn't it?
candle.
Yes. Okay. So, the last thing we have to do is the markers. Right. So we have chapter 6, chapter 5. Okay. 5 goes to there. A what? Six comes back to there and then goes to the end, and we'll do a little video transition. Clever transition. Dip it to Blackie. Right?
Guttering candle.
Maybe we'll stretch that out a little bit.
Floor by the unnecessary light of a guttering candle. Chapter 6. The furniture that went mad.
You know what? I'm going to do something a little more clever than that. Okay, we'll go dip you to black, nice and slow, creepy wise. And then you can have just a short one.
Chapter 6. The
There we go. back a couple of frames.
Chapter 6. The Furniture That Went Mad.
Yes, it went mad. Oh my god. It's mad furniture.
Tremendous voice.
Shut that door after you.
So that brief interview.
Dipped black. No, you don't like that, do you? Then we go back frame. Zoom right in, all clever like. Do a little dippy blacky over and there.
The stranger in a tremendous voice.
Shut that door after you.
So that brief interview, said the stranger in a tremendous voice.
Shut that door after you.
So that brief interview terminated.
Yay! Look at that. Victory! Lovely. Alright, so we're going to call an end to that editing stream there. I hope you have enjoyed it and found some usefulness or whatever in what I do and how angry I get at doors and footsteps. We're going to head over very shortly to Steve Stuff Games, and we're going to carry on our Valheim journey. And then tomorrow we'll come back and I think, yes, we'll record Chapter 7. Excellent. So I hope to see you then, and bye-bye. Have a great day. See you later. Bye. Bye.